I need to snug it up a little bit. Pro Stitcher Connect, and this version is 827. And the Connect means it's beta. I want to pace myself up so that I'm doing 2 quilts a day for 5 days a week. Like, I still have a lot to learn. Hi, welcome back. I am Dawn at the lake, and this is Lakeside Quilt Making Arts. Today we're going to do a short review of my first really harried, stressful quilt on the LongArm, which is my very first one to do completely by myself. The first one, I showed you that one. It turned out fine. Only had one little glitch with it, but it's something I couldn't figure out. And then my mentor, Sherry, came and helped me out. Can't even recall what that was right now. Gee, what was that? I can't recall, but it was something simple, but also something that I just didn't have the experience to be able to figure out on my own. So she came and she helped me with it. So this one, I was excited. I thought I had a lot figured out. I knew I had to learn a lot yet, like I still have a lot to learn, but I have done some deep diving in the past week. On New Year's Eve, I created the last video you guys saw. I, was loading my LongArm with that quilt that's actually on there right now. But that one's done. It is finished. And I thought, okay, I got 10 minutes. I got to get to physical therapy. So surely I can get this thing loaded. And then when I get back, I'll get it reloaded. That's what I was doing. And when I get back or the next morning, I'll be set up for success, right? Oh my gosh. It was intense for days. It's encountering problem after problem after problem. And what do problems do for us? They teach us things if we are willing to learn. And I'm very willing to learn. I'm very motivated to do this right, which is part of where the stress comes from, right? So I joked with you in the last video that, I was that crazy harried woman with, hair standing out to here, dishes in the sink, dog hair on the floor, not showering, clothes tattered and the whole bit. Not too far from the truth. Because I was really trying to stay very focused, and the dishes did pile up, and all those things, and I wasn't on camera. The only person around here to see me were my dogs, my son, and neither one of them, care. So I did stay pretty focused, and it paid off. I only got through it and saving the quilt because of the Facebook group called Pro Stitcher Posse. That is a great group there, and there's one particular person who's extremely knowledgeable. Patricia, she's only been quilting for 8 years, but she's an educator with Pro Stitcher, so she's got great information. So her information has already been pre-organized, and so she can just copy and paste it. And so you're getting not just her, whatever thought she can put together in that 2 or 3 seconds, she's given you details that you can follow. And I really need that the way my brain works. I need really, I'm really one that really needs logical flow, and I need to see it spelled out so I can follow step by step and easily refer back to it. My lessons with Sherry, my mentor, have been great. I've referred back to those too once I got those put onto the YouTube channel, and then I put timestamps on them. And again, that's a private YouTube channel so that I can scroll through the video more easily that way and have easy access to them wherever. So that's a good thing to remember if you have any videos you ever want to refer back to. Put them on a private playlist on your own YouTube channel. You don't have to have a, for business YouTube channel to do these things. So I've got some notes. I want to make sure I'm talking about some of the things that went wrong. I want you guys to learn too. Number one, the first thing you need to learn from this and the whole experience is that if you have a LongArm and if you have Pro Stitcher, number one, if you have a LongArm, go on Facebook, you can learn a lot. There's different Facebook groups for running a LongArm. And also, if you have Pro Stitcher, go to Pro Stitcher Posse. And, don't wear them out over there. But if you've got a problem, ask it. And pretty promptly, you're going to be getting some great feedback, something for you to think about that you probably hadn't thought about. Now, it's going to be a long time before I'm actually answering anyone's questions over there. But like I said, Patricia, I don't know if she's getting paid for it or not, but she's prompt no matter what time of the day, she's responding, and it's fantastic. So initially I had problems with thread breakage. I had issues with tension and trying to learn these things, and there's a lot of little nuances about that, and we can talk more about that as time goes on. But I started getting some odd things too, like the machine was staying still, sounding like it was trying to stitch, but it wasn't moving and the needle wasn't moving. But what I saw on screen was stitching happening, which clearly wasn't happening in front of me on the quilt. So what the results of that was that I had to go and update my software. Now, Sherry, my mentor, had told me not to, and I keep on saying Sherry, my mentor, because I also refer to Sherry, my friend from this channel, and the two different people just happen to be the same names. So my mentor had told me, don't update your version of your software. Just keep it as it is. I had it working. It just works fine. Stay away from anything called beta because beta just means they're testing things out on you. And I pretty much believe this too because whenever I get an update on my iPhone, an update option that says beta, I ignore it. I wait until there's an update that doesn't say beta. I don't want a beta. I want a bona fide update that, if someone's gone through, done the due diligence of cleaning it up for you. Well, Patricia on Pro Stitcher Posse said, you need to update your software and you need to get the beta. I'm like, hang on, ding, ding, ding. Alarm bells went off because of what Sherry had told me. But she put my mind at ease. And she said, and I told her, I said, Sherry had this thing coming along. She'd been doing this for a business and it was great. It was working for her very well. She's a reputable person. She did not lie to me about the condition of this. I didn't say all that, but I know she didn't lie to me about the condition of the machine. And she paid to have it serviced before I got it because she does an annual service every January. So she had it serviced in the 1st of December. So just before I got it. And then that person who serviced it delivered it to me. And he's a reputable person in the community too. He's servicing for everybody. So he's not, they're not trying to pull a fast one on me. So Patricia was updating me on the different versions of the software and saying that this beta, they call it Pro Stitcher Connect, and this version is 827. And the Connect means it's beta. And the Connect word of that means it's beta. And she said it was the most stable of them out there, that I could update if I wanted to one of the Pro Stitcher Premium options that were available, but it wouldn't be as stable. And my concerns about there being bugs, I didn't want to jump out of the frying pan into the fire. What did she say? She said that all software is going to have bugs, that it's just the nature of the game. That's why you keep on getting upgrades. And I know this. I just kind of needed to hear it, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. So don't be afraid to update. Like I update my phone every chance I get because I know it's not going to function as well if I don't. So Patricia's been an operating system tester for Microsoft and other companies over the years, and she's been working with Pro Stitcher for a number of years, and she's been quilting, LongArm quilting for 8 years. And so if she says anything at this point now, like I've only known her for a week, but I've learned so much from her and I trust her immensely. If she is commenting, I'm going to be leaning in and reading it and trying to learn from it because I just know it's going to be gold. Just gold nuggets everywhere. So, and everybody knows that. Like some people came in on the thread and said, Dawn, you can trust her. She knows her business. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm not, I am not distrusting Patricia at all. I'm just nervous about doing it because number one, I'm still pretty new with this machine. And then to come and do something like doing an update. Okay, so I go to do an update. And this is after 2 or 3 days already of having issues. And it's just everything's taken me so long to do because every time there's a thread break, I got to figure out what it is and redo a lot of things and then make sure I'm not creating another problem. And it sounds like it's a pretty straightforward, and it will be in the future because I put so much effort and energy into learning just the basics and have learned so much. And I haven't even put a check mark on learning the basics. That's what I really want to convey to you guys. If you think you're going to get a long arm and you're going to put your quilt on there and push a button and then walk away and go have dinner or go out to eat or whatever, and then come back and your quilt is quilted, no, no, no. That's not how this goes. If you're going to pay someone to do your long arming for you, let me just tell you, they are earning their keep. Whatever they're going to charge you, they're earning it. Remember, I told you guys that I wanted to try to get to the point, I want to pace myself up so that I'm doing 2 quilts a day for 5 days a week, or get 10 done out of a week. Whether or not that's 1.5 one day, or I'm working 6 days a week, or whatever it works out to be. Maybe it's 3 on one day, depending on the size of them. Ideally, that's where I will get to. It's going to be a while before I get to that because this one, And what was the dimensions on that? I've taken my glasses off so you guys don't have a big glare, because the light always glares on my glasses. This was only 52 wide by 66 long. Number one, I should have turned it the other direction so that I had it in the long arm going horizontal at 66 and then 52 the other way. So each of my rows, so that each of my rows would have been longer and I would have had less advances and less opportunities for things to go wrong. I didn't do that because I felt like it kind of was directional. It really isn't. So I should have fudged on this one and turned it the other direction so that the longest portion was horizontal. So each row was longer, so I would advance it less. So this one quilt at this size, 50, what did I say, 52 by 66. It took me a week to do. So if I've been paid for this one, I haven't done the actual math, but it would have been close to 100 bucks or so. Okay, something along those lines. And $100 for a week worth of stress, then that's not a good business model, is it? I know things will change, and I'm working towards making those changes, and to do that, I'm leaning into the details now. So whenever there's something that comes up, like thread breakages and the machine air quilting and updating my software and all these different things, I'm trying to pay attention to all the details. And right now, everything took me twice as long because I had to post a question and then wait for the answer. And then I had to dissect through the answer and, just figure out what part of it actually applies to me, what changes I needed to make when it came to actually updating my software. Okay, well, do I have it here? Yes, I have it here, right here. I had to update my software with a USB. So you had to put it on your computer, and then you need to put it on a USB, and then you can put that into your tablet. Okay, my little laptop that I use all the time doesn't have a USB function on it. I didn't have a USB. My son had to go after it. And at first I looked at the side of the tablet and it had the smaller port for a USB. I think that's what that's called. I didn't realize that on the back of the tablet is like a box that's been added on to the tablet, and it has slots, ports for a regular USB. I shouldn't say regular, but the bigger, boxier, square USB. So I didn't really have to have this, but anyway, my son went after this. So that's another reason I had hours of delay. So just kind of stalled out and couldn't do anything. So there was that. So so the fact that this one quilt has taken me over a week, like I said, on New Year's Eve, the quilt had been sitting there for 3 days because I was intentionally letting the snappers kind of expand and relax a little bit because I was needing to do that for my hands. I needed to refloat the top on it. I know now, like it hurts me to look back and watch the video that I just put up for you guys because I've learned so much. For instance, I've learned how to put the top on so that it is parallel to the bars at the back. That's going to be a brilliant thing. I'll show you that over time. I learned about using a zero-centered measuring tape that's been stuck onto the back of that bar up there. I've learned about using bungee cords on the sides, a Patricia tip, and these things are going to be great for moving forward. And I also learned that some people don't even bind their top down to any of the bars. They just float it completely. It just hurts me watching the things I didn't know just a week ago. Of course, 9 days ago now. No, 8 days ago. That the things I have learned is still like in another week's time, I'm going to say, oh, Dawn, you didn't know anything. And that's true because when this video is over, I'm going to do a deep dive into this concept called baseline. Something that I kept on forgetting to do whenever I was quilting on this, and it would cause some errors, some computer glitches, if you will. And I've got to understand really what baselining is doing for me and when to use it and when not to use it. It's just a foreign language whenever you're learning a new system like this. Like if you're in the business and you've been doing it for a while, you know it, like baseline comes to mind. Long jump pause, you know what that means. Just modify and reposition and start point. What does that really mean? Are my crosshairs going to jump to where the little green target is, or my target going to jump to where my crosshairs are? Lots of little things to learn, just lots and lots of little things to learn. I'm going to be learning more here in just a heartbeat too. Hopefully I will. Another issue that I'm dealing with that I'm going to have to resolve is, well, I do have a kind of DIY resolution for it. I'm using a hand mirror to look underneath here because you want to make sure, while I'm thinking about it, you see how that batting is pulled up? There's a reason for that. Do you remember in my last video, I was talking about how I was going to have to modify my apron? Well, look at this. That's not the kind of modification that I was talking about. Look at all that. This is what happens whenever your batting is leaning over the front of the machine. And this is why you need an apron, because that batting is there. And if it's hanging straight down, you're going to be leaning up against it all the time. So what you try to do is you have it slung underneath and on top of either the bar that's right there or whatever else you have up there. Some people, this is what I was about to get to, they put a mirror, like a full-length mirror on top of that. Can you see my finger? Because I can barely see it. I can't get my finger there. There it is. Some people put a full-length mirror there so they can better see what's going on underneath that quilt top. You want to make sure that you don't have anything dangling. If you have a thread break in the middle of it, well, you got to make sure that your thread coming out of your bobbin doesn't get caught up in your new stitching. You got to make sure that it doesn't cause a snag, and then as soon as you get things going again, you break your thread again. So many different things that you got to be looking for. You got to look for little rat's nest coming out over there. I still need to make some changes to my apron. Number one, I need to use my roller on it, I guess, on the regular, and I probably just need to take my whatever, my tie out and reconfigure things, because I did reconfigure things from what you guys saw the other day. But let me show you what's going on here. So I didn't rerun my ties at all, but this is the part that would normally go around your neck. I've got the ends of the ties coming up to that neck portion, and then that is going to go around my back. So it goes over my head, and then you put it on like it's sleeves, and so there's nothing pulling on my neck because it was tending to be too heavy on my neck. I've told you guys I've got instabilities from C5 down to T2. Each of those vertebrae want to move in different directions, not just sliding, front to back, but they want to slide this way. They want to slide this way. The ligaments holding them together are shot. So I'm doing all I can to preserve those. And so I don't need anything pulling, and even the slightest thing, it creates strain. So wearing this like this is easy to put on and off. It's not on my neck, but look how loose it is. I got to figure something out. Also, my scissors need a little pocket to set down into, because what happens is my dogs come up to me, and as I lean over to them, this is dangling into their eyes. And when I'm working, I don't have the protector on. And so I'm going to end up blinding one of my puppies, and that's not going to be good. So I need to kind of create a little pocket right here. I need to snug it up a little bit so that this pocket, I can't get that on camera, but there's a pocket that's way down here. It's really too low, especially the bottom of that pocket. I got to lean way over to get to it. So I like my logo, not my logo, but my design that I have here, that says Quilter's Guide to Quilt. So I want to work with this, and I will over time. It functions just fine. Like it's just keeping all this garbage off my clothes. So just know over time you're going to be seeing me looking kind of raggedy in this, but I do tend to fix it at some point. Got to come up with something that looks a little cooler than this, because it looks a little. It makes me feel. What's the word? I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit, unkept. And who wants that? We got enough unkeptness happening. We don't need to have anything that overly emphasizes that. We need to keep our spirits up. So over time, I'll get that worked out. So in order to look underneath here, I'm using a hand mirror. This is the size of it. I use one of these in the car too. My car is a 2010, and it doesn't have any views of it doesn't have a display inside the dash of what my rearview mirrors are seeing. And not just the rearview mirrors, but the side mirrors. So whenever I'm about to take a right-hand turn with oncoming traffic, I can't turn my head long enough. Like I can't turn my head at all to the left, but I have to twist from, the hips up, and it's very strained, and I can't keep that position very long at all. So I use this. It stays in the pocket of my door, and it just pops out. It's not this one, it's another one, and so I can keep my head comfortable and not strained, and I can pull it up and I can see what cars are coming, and it lasts just for a split second, and I can slide it down as I'm moving into traffic. And so I immediately thought about using one of these when I knew that I had to be looking underneath here a lot. So I use this in conjunction with a stool. So I've got a stool that's the right height for getting underneath there, and it's not too bad. It is working because you got to get underneath there on a frequent basis too whenever you're changing out your bobbin. Because every time you change a bobbin, which on this quilt was every 2 rows, and sometimes that bobbin was running out in the middle of the row. So whenever some of that bobbin runs out, you have to get underneath there, clean out the area where the bobbin case is held, because it always gets fuzz underneath there, you wouldn't believe. So that brings up 2 points. Let me get something to show you. These are all the bobbins that I went through. See, there's 3. Those are little dark circles. Those are magnets that hold them inside the bobbin case. 3, 4, and these are 2 partial ones, because at the end of these rows that these were used for, I knew that these had to be getting close to running out. I didn't want to deal with a thread break in the middle. So, because it just takes time. So I went ahead while I was changing the next row, changed out my bobbin. So do I keep these? These would be great to have for hand work. There's nothing wrong with keeping these, and I guess there's probably nothing wrong with tossing them, but I feel like that's a lot of thread still, and I'm just extraordinarily frugal. I don't know that I would want to put this back on the machine to do anything unless I was desperate. Do we get desperate sometimes? We do, I guess. Okay, and then there's what's in the bobbin case. This is what's been used of another spool of bobbin. Okay, another bobbin spool. So what is that? That's 4, 6, 7, 6.5. Probably not a full 6.5, but getting close to it. And if I were to actually put the binding on, then I would probably use up all of this and maybe another one too. Now, I went through so many of these mainly because of how heavily it was quilted. It was pretty densely quilted. I'll show you the quilting on it. Hang on. Oh, did I show you my cart is amazing. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4 tier, and this has been a lifesaver. I can put my laptop right here whenever I was talking to the folks over at the Pro Stitcher Posse, and I can transfer my attention from this to the screen, left and right, back and forth. All of my different things are here. I'll get this organized after I know what all is going to be needed to be stored on here. Having it tall like this and it being forward tiered means that I can have it better organized and have more things without having them all compacted up on just one of these little shelves. So I'm in love with this thing. I like it a lot. I'm trying to figure out how to store my books in here, and I thought about getting another one of these and keeping it just for my books, and then it can be maybe over here in this back wall, and that's it. Like that's my entire bookcase. And if I need to bring it out over here where I can get to it, having it on wheels is kind of nice. I don't know. I'm not going to do anything immediately. Immediately, I might just be using a cardboard box because all of this has been very, very expensive. And there's like $1,000 more that I need to throw at it. I'd like to get Pro Stitcher Designer. And in order to get Pro Stitcher Designer, which is something you do on a device separate from the machine, I would have to get a Microsoft operating system. And I don't want a laptop Microsoft, and I'm all Apple products here, which I didn't realize is only 15% of the computer users are Apple. Everybody I know uses an Apple pretty much. So I had no idea I was in, 15% minority. But that's the reason that Pro Stitcher only manufactures for Microsoft operating systems. And because it's a small business, they aren't going to be able to do also one for Apple because it's only 15%. 15% increase in their sales, you would think that might be worth it. I don't know. But I know when it comes to paying for people to code things, that's expensive. So I'm not knocking them, I'm just trying to explain to you. So I need a Microsoft operating system tablet, and then I would need Designer. And altogether, that's like $800 or something. So I got to figure out that over time. So after I start producing and having some income, I need to get that so that I can work with my designs and alter my designs, create them, and transfer them back and forth. Now I've signed up with and I've purchased some quilting designs from My Creative Stitches, I think it's called. I think the lady's name is Christine or Chrissy. So I purchased them from her and I put them on my computer, but I had to have a USB in order to transfer them. So I didn't have the USB initially. Now I do. I can get them off my computer and put them on here. I don't know how to do that yet. Like, how do I get the stitches from my laptop onto there? I'll figure that out. It's one of my next things to do. Like I said, I'm diving deep and learning lots, and I don't even have a check mark next to the basics. There's a box that says learn the basics. And then there's another set of boxes that says, get good at custom quilting. I don't know. I don't even have the actual list. I'm just stuck on basics. And that's where I'm going to be for a little bit. You know what? There's no shame in that game. I am learning, and I'm learning well because I want to do a good job at this. I really do. Yeah, my expectations were 2 quilts a day for 5 days. That's not going to happen. But eventually, hopefully it will. So where am I now? This one, I need to inspect it. I still have the design that I put on it. I still have it on the Pro Stitcher. And once I have deemed this quilt is ready to be cut away, taken off, I would delete it because there's nothing about that quilt design that is special that needs to be saved for some other quilt. And in fact, I don't really care for the quilt design. That's why I want Pro Stitcher Designer, so I can do a lot of tweaking on different designs. But again, you can buy other designs, and they're like, some are free and some are $4 or $5 or something along those lines. And I just saw a post on Pro Stitcher Posse of somebody was saying that this other company was having a sale here in January for their quilting designs for long arms for Pro Stitcher. And I guess typically that's not just Pro Stitcher that the designs are being made available, that you can choose which type of file that you want to download your files in. So there are workarounds for some of this, but I didn't know how to do any of that. Because this quilt had fruit on the back of it, I chose one with an apple design. That seemed to fit because if you remember the Cafe Fawcett, Cafe Fawcett, Cafe Fawcett or Cafe Fawcett? Facette, I think it's Facette.
Cafe Facet.
Anyway, Cafe Facette Millefort, I believe is what it's called, but it's a fruit medley that's on the back. It's just like a medallion of fruit. And that's what if you see that really dark cranberry fabric that's up there, that's also on the borders of this quilt. It kind of made sense. I also thought some kind of bird design might look good, but everything bird design was like eagle, and these are happy little robins and things that are on the front of this quilt. It didn't really make sense. So what I chose to do was go with the fruit. Okay, so I only have so many fruit options available to me inside Pro Stitcher. All I know how to work with right now are the options they have available for you called continuous line. Now, from the other sites, I can get some that are edge to edge, and I've ordered some of those, and I'll be getting some others. And I think whenever I'm doing my next assignment, that's what I'm going to pull up next as the homework assignment, the last homework assignment that I got from Sherry. And I'm going to make that one of the objectives is to learn how to go and purchase a design and have one special just for that. And I want to learn how to open up that design so it's not so dense. I did change the size of this apple a little bit, but I didn't have a good bearing for how big to make it. It turned out much smaller than what I wanted. And that was my fault only. What I envisioned was that it was going to get bigger. I wanted it kind of loose, but that's not what I got. And it's because I was thinking in my head about what the apple would look like if it grew and grew. I wasn't thinking about the shape and size of the entire design, because the entire design is more than one apple. It's stacked apples and leaves and stuff. And so making that bigger, it still left me with a pretty dense row of stitching. And that's why I went through so many bobbins and had the opportunity for so many thread breaks. I had 14 rows on this. and and each one took a while. I'm working with a speed, I believe, of 72 and acceleration of 40. So that's a decent pace, but it's not full out, the maximum that the machine can do. From what I understood from Sherry, is that there's just no need to do that. You're asking for thread breaks, and you can break a needle more quickly when you're going over some of the denser places. And there were a few places on this quilt where you got some points coming together, so you have like eight seams. And so I thought, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to work with a 72, I believe it is, on my speed. So each one of those rows, when nothing is going wrong on it, was taking about 25 minutes. 14 rows. These are things you have to think about whenever you're loading up your long arm with your quilt. It's how many rows am I going to have to do, and how densely do I want to do it, and if it's going to take more thread to do that, am I getting paid well enough for that? Those kinds of things. Some other things for you to think about as somebody who might be coming to a LongArmer and sending your quilt in is square things up. Make sure that the outside edges of your quilt, and number one, tell your LongArmer if the top is the top or the bottom is the bottom, whatever. If it has direction to you, tell them. Put a piece of tape on it, pin a piece of tape says top, so there's no mistaking that you think this is the top. If you think there's no direction to it, let them know that, because it's going to save them time. And if they have more time, they can probably do a little bit better job, even because they're not trying to rush through anything. But make sure that you square things up to the best of your abilities. Trim off all the threads off the sides and do what you can to make things as squared as possible. If you want your LongArmer to do it, then okay, that's fine. But then they probably need to charge for that. I don't know if they do. I would think so, because that's just extra time. And then they're cutting into your fabric for that. But it makes a difference. If you've got wavy lines or it's hourglass, if your border starts here and it goes like this and comes back out, then that's going to affect how it's going to roll. It's going to affect how you're going to put your design in. It's going to affect how you visually see it, and it leaves you more opportunity for making an error, an oversight. But I have countermeasures for that. The bungee cords that I now have, my, what do you call those things? Stops that I have on the bungee cord. That's going to help me to keep things lined up. So that's one of the things I want to share with you guys. And I need to get my Amazon account up and running. I've got one, like just the name of it created, but I don't have anything on it yet. But when I'm telling you guys about some of these things that I've bought, I want you to be able to just click on a link to go to it, so I can get some commission off of it and you don't have a hard time trying to find them. Let me show you this little vacuum cleaner. It is so cool. Okay, so it is charged by USB. I had it charging overnight. I want to make sure it had a full charge. Okay, it's got all kinds of attachments. This is nice, right? Because it's flexible. I can hold it here and I can get to all kinds of places. It's nice and compact. You don't have to have this on here. But when you put this on here, guess what happens? It blows air out of this. And you can do this with this particular machine, with the Handy Quilter AMARA 20. You can turn this on and blow into that bobbin case because it's closed. Because this is not compressed air, you're not getting moisture. So you probably could do it even with one that doesn't have a back to it. But the bobbin area of this machine is closed off. So if you're blowing inside of it, you're not blowing any dust or fuzz or anything up inside the machine. There are, some things inside there that you wouldn't want to have that you wouldn't want to put under any stress, really. And you can get a good bit of stress out of this. See? So you still got to be careful, you know, just because it seems like it's harmless, it's still a force and you need to be careful. There's so many aspects of this machine of this long arm machine that I feel like you just got to be really delicate with. Like when you shut down, one of the things I learned the hard way because it cost me a lot of time is that when you shut down, you need to, you know, number one, reverse how you turn it on. You're turning it off at the tablet first by doing the shutdown procedure. Then the tablet turns off. Then there's a button here on this side that you turn off. Then you go around to the back and you turn that off. And then you go to the cables and you disconnect them from power. What I was doing is because I had my cables attached to a surge protector, one that was rated for this. It's not your typical surge protector. It was, I think it's 2,500 joules, Joules, I believe is what that's referred to. And I think this needed 2,000 or 2,200. And so my surge protector is more powerful than what was necessary. Okay, but I was going over to the wall then and disconnecting my surge protector, thinking there's no power going to the surge protector, then there's no power going to the cords. Well, we do believe that there is still some residual power with those cords being connected to the surge protector, because that's the only thing that we can deduce right now is why I had some of the problems that I was having, the air stitching. And whenever I would shut down, I would still have the same problem that I'd just had. So there's a lot of little nuances here, just little bitty tiny nuances where you're learning your machine. You probably felt that whenever you got your domestic machine too. You know, that's one of the nice things about slow stitching. You got a little needle in your hand, you're sitting and doing things like there's not a lot of um, high level thinking about how that little needle works. Is there a lot of high level thinking about what all you can do with a needle in your hand? Yes. So I'm not dissing it. I love handwork. But my point is, whenever you're going to get something like this, definitely don't be thinking. It's just a push go and walk away. There's a lot of things to be thinking about. You got to be on your A game. And I know after a while, some of this will become, you know, muscle memory, and it won't have to be something that I am making notes for myself and saying, don't forget to do this, Dawn, don't forget to do that. But that's where I am right now. And today's objective is to learn about baselining. I'm going to inspect this, make sure it looks good, get it off there, and then call it quits. I'm pretty pleased with this whole quilt. Like I said, I had a lot of stops and starts in the middle of a row, so I got a lot of threads to bury. It's going to take me some time to do that. But you know what? I got a little TV over there. I can put something on and watch my YouTube on my TV, and that's good. The next video that I hope that I'm producing is one about fire safety. I've done a little bit of a deep dive, I've done a little bit of a dive into shoring up my fire safety in this studio. And I think in January, when we're all kind of thinking about organizing and clearing out and decluttering and stuff, it's a good time also to be thinking about, are your plugs rated for what your drain is on the plug? Is your plug rated for your surge protector? Is your surge protector rated for the cord? Is your cord rated for the appliance or the appliances? All these things matter, especially whenever you're running really hot things. I did get a new little iron, and this is called a mini hot press, I think they call it. I think this one is perfect size for keeping here at my sewing machine. There's some others that I think you've seen on other channels, because I have. There's small ones, but I read the reviews and I really wasn't happy with some of the things. For the money, it didn't seem like some of those were worth the risk. And one of them actually had fire safety cautions on it. And I don't remember which one now. But this one, nobody was complaining about. And I like how it's something you can easily grab. It just gets hot. I just need something small enough to keep by my machine that I'm not easily knocking it over. It's not sliding around. Of course, I wish it wasn't corded, but it is. The other thing I want to update you guys on was that I am working on my ironing board. The renovations to the ironing board are probably going to be a two-parter. I'm going to get part A done and then part B, but I'll show you that in another video. I've kept you long enough. I really do appreciate you guys being here on this journey with me and keeping me company, even whenever I'm not on camera talking to you. I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about what I need to tell them, what does everybody need to know, what might you be interested in. Like, I feel like I'm connected to you when I'm not on camera. That's the kind of community that we're forming here, and I'm grateful for it. So grateful for it. Keep moving the needle. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, my friends.